Time is now 6:31. I would like to call this meeting to order. If you'd all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Tom Sinkowitz.
Here.
Ted DeMaine.
Here.
Gary Stalboyne.
Here.
Dean Gorman. Don Cavella.
Here.
Adrian Ferrari.
Here.
Linda Fedora.
Here.
Our first order of business is actually kind of a typo. It says acceptance of the minutes from April 26th. That should read April 19th. There is a immediate correction that I have noticed, is that on the second page where it says Linda motion for the proposed budget and mill rate, that should be Don made the motion and Linda seconded. All right.
And I believe I'm abstaining from the minutes for the April 5th meeting.
Yep.
It's not on there.
No, it does say.
It does?
Yep. It says that,
Well, that's on there for the April 12th.
oh, you're talking about the April 5th?
Yeah. April
Okay.
5th.
That's all right.
All right, so the corrections would be for the minutes of the April 5th. The correction is that Gary abstained. And on the last motion, it was Don that made the motion and Linda seconded. And that is, other than that, I think those are the only corrections. So with that in mind, I will entertain a motion that we accept the minutes from the April 19th meeting.
I move we accept them with the corrections.
Okay, motion is made by Don to approve the minutes with the corrections. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second is by Tom. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? Okay, that motion carries. Now on to new business. Last night,
Gary, can I make a motion even though I'm only the alternate?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure, but
Have to be amended.
it has to be,
According to Robert's rules for
I can't
dummies.
hear you.
According to Robert's rules for dummies. I'm not being facetious, there's a book, I read it.
Yeah. But what was your statement though? I couldn't hear you.
There's about 5,285 words I can't remember.
Okay. Well, my question was, she asked the question and you responded, but I couldn't hear what your response was.
You have to be a seated member to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. All right. So under new business then is to consider and act upon the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2023 through 2024. So at this point, I will open up discussions from the board members, all included, to make any comments or questions that they have at this time. So who would like to get things started?
I'm not sure I got my numbers right, but the increase from last year is 989, 159.
No, I don't believe that's right. It's 1,317,786. Is that correct?
It is total increase in expenditures?
Increase in the budget from the previous year.
Yeah, it's 1,404,188.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I looked at these numbers that came, we got this morning. And if we bring this number down to 20.50, it would be a $1.2 million decrease, which would be, running the numbers on my property, would be more agreeable.
Okay.
Not necessarily what I want, but I could live with that. Yeah, so that's what I would support at the moment, unless somebody else comes up with better ideas.
So you would support a $1.2 million decrease in the proposed budget?
You're right, and split equally, split proportionately between the town and school,
Okay.
whatever those numbers are. And we'll not cut the library or the, I won't support cutting pool or the library.
Okay.
Those are two that will be on the table for me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have two things to say.
Okay.
Well, I have three things to say, actually. I think it would have been better if we had citizen participation first on the agenda. The second thing is, I support the mill rate as it is. I know we're not supposed to make specific suggestions as to where to cut the budget. We're just supposed to give them a number. But I really do want to hear from members of the board that don't support the budget going forward as presented, like where's the money coming from? I mean, I understand that there was some paperwork sent out. That it wasn't explained to me. Some cuts were going to, did you get a copy of that, Tom? That some cuts were suggested?
You talking about Gary's cuts?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a cut.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah,
well, I need some explanations on that, if that's going to be your suggestion.
well, I gave you the line item numbers, the
Yeah.
page,
Yeah,
and the binders
right.
to look at it.
Right.
I told you exactly what to look for. And on the remarks section, because some items have multiple items in them,
Yeah.
and I broke that
well,
out
I'll
too.
there's a couple for the police. You said to reduce the number of gallons of gas. And then on the school, you wanted to reduce the money they spend on feminine hygiene. I would just like, where do you get those numbers?
Yeah, well, the gas, because
Medical waste?
I got gas usage from Kelly for the last 2 or 3 years. And what they proposed, 19,000 gallons. In reality, it was down towards more 15,000.
But
That's
when
why I
you sent out
reduced it.
that proposal, so until today, the gas went up 40 cents a gallon. So,
Yeah,
they gave us a number. They didn't give us gallon usage to approve.
what's the gas rate right now? Because I think I told Chief, I told you, 350? Like last year, the figure?
350.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know what it is right now. I
I'll
haven't
tell
heard
you.
yet.
I just passed it, it was about 350.
Yeah.
We're coming in.
I mean, my point is that, everything that I heard when the budgets were presented made sense to me.
Yeah.
They explained where they were going to spend their money, and what doesn't make as much sense to me is.
Well, you gotta remember, I cut like $1 million out of their budget.
I know, but.
And I didn't get rid of one teacher.
Well, we got rid of a cop. I mean, I'm just asking, like, we didn't have a meeting about this. It's just like, I mean, I
I sent
respect
it
God,
out,
but
I
it just
sent
came
it out
up
for
with a
feedback.
number.
I sent it out for feedback, but nobody decided to look at it. So that's not my fault.
You didn't send it to me. I got it from Kelly.
That's right.
Right.
because otherwise it would have been an illegal meeting.
I'm just, voicing my opinion that I'd like the mill rate to stay as it was
That's
at,
fine,
you know,
that's fine.
presented, because, and I don't understand. I mean, I'd be asking the same question of Don, where are they supposed to cut the money from? You know.
That'd be up to the,
Well, at least
that'd be up to them.
I do understand.
At least in my proposals, I have suggestions on where to cut. I mean, they don't have to, but that's suggestions. Because basically all I do is nickel and dime on the debt, is what I did for the Board of Ed, you know? The only people I cut was 2 admins, a couple ITs, and some paras in transportation.
But can we do that?
Huh?
Can we cut people like that?
No, he can't
No,
cut
he
people,
can't.
so he's not saying people, he's giving you an
I
idea
know,
of
but
what
if
he thinks
you're
where.
making a
Yeah.
suggestion,
No, I get
if you're
that.
making a suggestion
I mean-
and it's unrealistic, then they have to make the money up somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Well, why not?
All right.
Can't they cut admins?
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent.
Yes. All right.
Sorry.
I'd like to, at this moment, please.
Thank you. So I'd like to say 3 things on this. To the response of can you cut admins? So within our active contract, admins are guaranteed, if ripped out of a position, they're guaranteed to bump to a lower position at the same salary the following year. So by cutting an admin, that's actually a cut for the 2024 budget and won't impact the next budget. So can an admin be cut? Hypothetically, an admin could be cut, but it will not impact next year's budget. I would also note that whatever's being discussed, the list, apparently Kelly or the town had it, I haven't seen this. It
What,
wasn't sent-
my list?
No,
I sent it to you. I sent it to you.
you did not. So what you sent to me was a list, really, or a series of questions, not to contradict you, which was sent me
Yeah, well,
4 weeks ago,
I
which I responded to.
I sent it to you in my, because I made sure, because I had issues with you before about communication, so that's why I did that.
I don't have any communication from the Board of Finance, which would have come from the chair, I believe, with suggesting cuts. And I don't like feminine hygiene products, that's based on a 3-year average. And that's not an item we can nickel and dime because we're required by law to provide that.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if I cut it, I just probably reduced it, I don't know.
A transportation para, those are typically assigned for special needs students and defined by special
I mean,
needs.
these were 2 or 3 new positions, I wasn't sure, I can't remember.
I don't have any new positions.
I
I've
thought
cut
there was
7
new
positions.
positions there.
I mean, I'd like to hear where everyone thinks they're at right now at the moment, or if we could ask any questions. Honestly, I would like to see it cut, but at the same time, I also like the way that I think that we need to, invest in our talent, but I get it. It's a lot for a lot of people. I get that, and I'm not saying that I can afford it. But again, as I said last night, I'm looking at $100 a month if we pass it as is. So I really want to hear what you guys have to say, and so we can all come to an agreement, right? And again, maybe talking with everyone here, to see what can realistically be cut. Because I think, at least whenever I do budgets, right, I kind of do all right, this is what I want, right? But I also have my backup as I'm okay with this, I can function with this. So I would almost like to hear, what can these departments cut anything in their budget realistically speaking? And then see if it's anywhere near what we're thinking, and see if it'll, as we saw last night, I would have liked more citizen participation than 10 people. So I'd like to know where everybody stands, but,
Maybe, like on the same line that we are saying, we take what they absolutely need, then stuff, maybe projects that are on the table could get put back to another date and time.
could be, yeah.
For instance.
Well, everybody's here, can we ask them?
Well, here, I'll ask. Realistically speaking, Mr. Selectman, what would the town be able to concede? Realistically, without hurting the town. We don't want to hurt the town. But realistically, is there a number that the town would be comfortable saying, we can find X amount of cuts in this area?
I don't want to contradict, but I do want to say what the position at this time would be.
Yes.
The Board of Finance at this moment has heard from the public, we've heard from all of the entities, whether it be Board of Education, whether it's town. This is what you've heard over the last month or so. We're really looking for numbers from you. You heard, or you've asked for numbers already. I mean, I don't know what to say. If you told me, Kevin, I need to cut $500,000 out of my budget, that's what we have to do. This is where you have to make that decision of what you feel is appropriate for the public, for the town. I think you've heard everything so far. I can't tell you what I feel comfortable with. I honestly can't. Because anything I cut is going to hurt somebody. Same thing I believe with the Board of Education. So you've heard everybody. It's really your job at this point to do that. By asking for line item by line item what you might want to consider, that's already passed. We're not talking about your final numbers, what you think the public can or cannot afford.
I mean, and again, I appreciate your comment on that, I really do. But at the same time, I also, what I see happening is, I see this going in we're going to cut it 1.2 million, which I don't want to see that. So I'm trying to figure out where can we meet in the middle. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm trying to see where can we meet with that. If we're able to do that, then I don't know what direction it's going to go in. And we'll talk, that's fine. I'm just trying to see what can the departments that we're voting for, what are they able to do, which helps us. Because if you guys are able to say, hey, we can cut 800,000, for example, whatever the number is, then maybe that's something that we would be comfortable with. I don't know, but that's the only reason I'm asking.
All right, and I would reply with, if I could cut 800,000, I think I've already done that.
If what? Okay. Okay. Chief, is there any light we can shed on it?
Here's the bottom line. I've come forward with this budget 3-4 times in the first select, going back and forth with just the first select alone, and then to the board of select, and then hour and a half, hour 40 minutes to the board of finance. I went line by line, explained each and everything where every dollar is spent. So when I go back and look and you say, okay, obviously if we have to cut, where are you going to cut from? Well, then I look at it and I say, okay, well, you know what? We need 2 HVAC units. They are on their last leg, their last minute, their last mile. Can I say, okay, let's cut that, and you know what, that's $15,000 right there? Yes, I could do that. And hope that I'm not coming back before the board in 6 months saying, guess what just failed? My HVAC unit just failed. I have a new phone system that is part of the budget, and that new phone system is because we're not getting any service currently on the phone system that we have. So then what's going to happen is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to cut $15,000 or $13,000, whatever it is for the phone. So now I just cut $30,000 and hope that I don't have to come back to the board in 6 months for you to tell me, for me to tell you, guess what? Phone systems are down. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I got to replace this. Where are we going to get that money from? So yes, could I cut? Yes, I can. I just don't want to come back before the board and the public and say, guess what? Now I need $30,000, $50,000 for replacements.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I asked because based on what we saw yesterday, the town that we represent want to cut, right? I mean, it's just from what we saw yesterday. So we're just trying to see again what is feasible. Because as we saw yesterday, somebody even said, okay, what do we need? What can we go without? What can we postpone? And that's
Right.
right.
And then 2 weeks prior, there was several people that were like, oh, I'm good with this budget. So I understand you got to weigh both, but you look at it and you might say, okay, well, you have two cruisers listed here. Well, I have received 2 cruisers for the past 10 years. Do you want to cut one? Will we survive if we cut one? Of course we would. We would make it work. But then what's going to happen next year when I go for the board and now I need 3, and you're going, well, we're only going to give you 1 now. So not only am I back down to 1,
you're setting a precedent.
I'm losing 2 now in the following year. It's not something, if I came to you before and I said, listen, I need 3 cruisers. Well, gee, for the past 10 years, your department's requested 2. Why are you at 3? That's not happening. I'm asking for the same thing. So it's not like I can increase that to get more. As far as gas, I can budget for $3.25 and hope that $3.25 is going to be locked in for the gas price. I talked to a few of you, we're at $3.50. What are we going to be getting in the summer?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's best guess.
Yes, sir.
You don't mind, I can add one thing. I just received the information, that's why I have, you see you asked what can I cut? If you take a look at your package within the Department of Health under, far down on the packet, but Department of Health, we had an issue with the Department of Health over the past few months. for those who aren't aware of it, every municipality in northeast corner through the Northeast District Department of Health was hit with a, oh, by the way, we bypassed the date that you could have pulled out, but we're going to go up 52%. And we did talk about that a little bit at the budget time. They just came back and the director is no longer there, so it leads you into the next step of they offer to give discounts to every town municipality. So I would say that it can give you $42,000 right now. I just found that out. So this $42,000 I can give you right away.
I think I can get us started.
Okay.
Kelly, I don't have the number exactly, but $1,400,000 increase.
Yeah.
Over last year, yes.
It doesn't matter. That's
Yeah,
close
1.4
enough.
million.
Okay, what we're going to do is cut half of that. Cut
7,000.
half. 10% by the police department. How about it, boys?
Excuse me, Adrian was still in the middle of asking questions, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to go to the superintendent next and see if the superintendent would enlighten us if there's anything in your budget after going through it. I understand that a lot of things are imperative, not all of them.
No, I can talk to this because we left our last meeting. I approached my board of ed and I said there's an opportunity to restructure the ECC if we write an early childhood grant. And you're always encouraging us to go after grant funds. So we looked at those pieces. We're restructuring the early childhood center through a new grant. We anticipate to be granted. This was publicly passed in our last board meeting. I talked to the Office of Early Childhood. We think there's a high chance that they're going to approve it. I received the confirmation this morning. That grant will grant us, if we restructure the ECC, moving away from the full-day readiness to half-day readiness, but offering more slots, we'll gain about $240,000. So that's a significant grant, which we believe will be renewable and we can access next year. It will change the readiness program moving forward. We spoke as a board publicly and can speak to that. Every other piece that we've looked at, and I want to say this respectfully. I'm sorry if I was disrespectful earlier. I regret that, so I'm sorry. When we look at our budget over the last 10 years, the Board of Ed has had a lot of zeros. We've had a lot of ones. Our largest budget increase we've had, you have to consider that a significant portion of that increase was actually an additional contribution to the pension, which we wanted to make sure we did. So when our salaries are going up 3% or 2.5%, but we're only having a 1% increase, we are nickel and diming down those accounts. Our supply accounts are less than they used to be. You know, if you go back 10 years or 15 years, we had cross-currents. So when we start cutting beyond that number, you know, one number being talked about is summer school. Summer school costs us $65,000. When I listen to parents, they want that very badly. When we do our circles, it's what do we have to run, and then what could we run. But if you're asking me where that is, you know, that's a number that, you know, we will have, which we didn't anticipate until the last board meeting. I needed my board's approval to write the grant. We anticipate $240,000. That's a new grant. That's not information that we had in January, else I would have done it in January. The second piece of this is, I don't know what 55% of that number is off the top of my head.
385. $245.70. That's how it breaks down. But I'm just saying that's.
315, 385.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm 245, and then there was.
We are a town, we work
Right.
together, so that's part of our town budget. Grand total for the town is 315, according to Fed's calculations.
Yeah, and whatever you guys do is between you guys, right?
Not that I agree with it, I'm just saying that that's what the numbers are.
The other thing is, I'm all for the departments to cut. I worked for the town for 5 years, and whenever my budget got cut, I was very, very pleased with the fact that they said, you have to cut, but you cut where you think is necessary. I don't want anybody cutting my budget where they think, because as a supervisor at the time, I think I knew more where I could lose a job or materials or whatever. So I'm 100% for. We give them the numbers, like I said, then they cut wherever they feel they can do it.
I think having listened to the public, I think we do need to make some adjustments. It's just, I think, trying to figure out as a board, is there a number here that we can agree on? Me personally, I don't think we're going to be able to get to the 1.2 million, which would put the mill rate at a 20.50. But kind of some of the things that I've heard here from some of the board members is, could we maybe try to find like a middle point? And in looking at the list that was presented to us by Kelly as far as what some of the proposals could be, to get to a 20.88 mill rate would be 650, to get to a 20.81 mill rate would be 750. So, you know, that's kind of what I would be looking at. You know, I'm just curious is, you know, because that's not, again, that's not the full amount that is proposed on there. It's also not the least amount. It's kind of in the middle. Would any other board members see that as a possibility?
That's a possibility, but who would cut?
I started off at 1.2, but I'm willing to bring, you know, come down depending on where we stand with support there. So the one, I think that is a little bit low. Let's go right in the middle between.
And then to Ted's point, I mean, if we could try to find a bottom line number, then proportionally, how would we want to divvy it up between the town and the Board of Ed?
Divvy it up proportionately, you know, whatever Board of Ed's proportionate budget is in the town, they each get equal proportions.
Any other thoughts?
Well, yeah. I mean, the town and the school have spoken, and they've voluntarily, so to speak, reduced their budget between the two of them, 300,000. Am I wrong?
Thinking about that, you're looking at 42,000 town, 240 Board of Ed, and then if the police were to be 15, yeah, you go to 297.
That's up to them, you know, within.
No, I understand, but it's a
just a number.
discussion, we're having a
Right.
discussion.
Right, that's up to them.
There's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Regardless of what we decide here tonight, it still has to go to a vote. So the residents will have final say. We can make suggestions. We should have a better understanding of the whole components of the budget. But the bottom line is, what can the residents of the town support, both specifically financially? We heard from 10 different people last night. Several people spoke multiple times, but basically, out of those 10, 8 were against what we have as a proposed budget. So we have to do something. We have to reduce it somehow, because they cannot support this financially or in any other sense. We've heard some extremes about what the taxes would be for individuals, ranging from on up to $1,200, you know, and others are going to have significant tax increases with this proposed budget, and they have fixed incomes, whether they're retirees or whatever. So we have to be mindful of that, because here in this room, we can come up with what we feel is the best possible plan, but at the end of the day, it's the residents of the town who decide whether or not they will support this. I think, Ted, you made a great suggestion, come to the middle. That's 700. I mean, we've heard some numbers talked about already. We're at kind of at 300 right now. We're in that ballpark. Do we want to go to the 700, or are we satisfied with the 300? So
At 300, the mill rate would be about
21.
21.12.
21, a little over 21.
21.12.
Yeah, something like that.
But I also wanted to say that, you know, I heard the citizens last
Yeah.
week, and I read social media, but it's human nature that we only complain if we're unhappy. You know, nobody ever, you know, read the reviews for a restaurant. Oh, you know, I found a bug in my drink, and it sucked, and I had to wait 30 minutes. So the people that came last night, and my taxes are going to go up too. you know, and it's unfortunate that not everybody can afford to pay an extra $67 a month. But I'm gonna squeeze it out somewhere. So we may have just heard from, you know, negative Nancy's. I mean, if there's, the town has, what, 15, 17,000 people? What's our population? I don't know how many of those are registered voters, but, you know, we only heard from 10 people, so.
But there's a few of people that got good employment, you know, were employed pretty good by the wages, so.
And there was 100 people.
Okay, so it's telling me that they were supporting what they had to say.
Right, but, like the woman that spoke on behalf of the seniors, you know, I'm a senior, and I know this town offers benefits that are only available to seniors, including a tax break. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that she was speaking on behalf of other seniors, but I am too. And, you know, I didn't want to bring it up last night, but if you go talk to the tax assessor, she can tell you all about the senior discount.
Mr. Chair, did you have a suggestion, a number, you know, like a certain bill rate, a certain amount that you were looking at personally?
At the outset of this, I had an idea of what our increase would have to be. Looking at what last year's budget was, with the understanding that we need to compensate our employees, and that there was going to be some increases in monetary expenses, whether it be fuel, electricity, whatever. I knew that the budget from last year had to increase. That there's, you know, that's just the nature of the economy, the nature of society. Everything costs more to operate. My initial number in my head was I was thinking it was going to be about $600,000. And that's before I started receiving numbers. I had a feeling that we were going to have to go up about $600,000 because you had contracts that were going to be extended or renewed for several of the unions. You also had individual contracts that had to be counted in. So to ask somebody to not take a pay raise, I mean, that's the only way you're going to get a flat budget from year to year. So there has to be an increase. Logically, we have to spend more to take care of the people that work for us. So in my mind, I was thinking we were going to increase at least $600,000 from last year. That was the money number I had in my head. Would I want to cut more? After hearing everybody, I still think the budget from last year to this, what does that mean? That means we'd have to cut 8, but maybe I'm not being, maybe I'm not taking into consideration all the factors. Is 1.4 million a lot? Yeah, that's a big increase over last year. But what do we look for? Well, at this point, I'm thinking we look for something more than the 600,000, but the 1.4 is just not going to be, to me, it's not going to be tenable because it's going to create a strain on a good portion of our citizens. So I'm thinking we either increase it somewhere between 600,000 and $1 million. That's the increase. We need to find a number in there. So what does that mean? That means we either cut 400,000 or we cut 600,000 from the budget. I think cutting 8 at this point, I think from my personal perspective, I don't think we should be cutting 800,000 from this budget. I think if we look at some of the numbers that have already been talked about or presented as possible potential contributions to what the cut would be, we're already looking at close to $300. Excuse me, 300,000. Sorry. I don't think the town is going to go for a $1.4 million increase. Will they go for an $800,000 increase?
After last night, I don't think so.
Well, to Linda's point, we had a lot of people get up and speak, and to your point, there was a lot of support for that. But also to follow up on her point, is a lot of times you hear from the people that are upset about something. You don't hear a whole lot about people saying, oh, I like this, I like this, I like that.
Nobody comes up with that. That's,
No, we only heard a little bit of that last night. Is a 1.4 million increase? No, I'm not for that. I'm not for $1 million increase. But can I take an $800,000 increase? I think I can. I mean, mine are going to be one of the taxes. If we don't change this mill rate, this budget, I'm one of those people that's looking at a major tax increase on my property. So I'm kind of with Ted. I think a $700,000 cut is not bad, but maybe it shouldn't be quite that much. So I think my number rate at this point is go from 1.4 to $800,000 increase.
I'm sure a lot of people are keeping in mind too that what we've got going on with the WPCA. The people that are on sewer lines, they're going to end up paying a little more too annually, for one, than about our fire departments. You can look at a 2 mil, add 2 mil just for our fire departments, that's a separate tax.
So Kelly, my question to you is if we decrease this budget by $600,000, what does that bring our mill rate to?
20.91.
20.91. Any other thoughts?
I'm shooting for maybe the 750 or 850.
Okay.
I can go with the 850.
I think I'm with you on 600.
My mill rate would be 20.85. That's pretty much right in the middle.
So that's what that's, oh yeah, that's a 700.
I mean, well, I'm in agreement actually with Ted. I think that that's trying to get to the middle. And so my question was going to be to you is, what do you think? Because it sounded like you were saying that you kind of were agreeing with Ted. I mean, do you think you would support that personally? I think I could. And also with the notion, like you had said, whatever we agree with tonight, it doesn't mean that that's going to go through anyway.
Right.
I believe we have to do something. It's just a question of what are we going to come up with.
Well, initially, Dean, you said 400,000, didn't you?
At the beginning, I said 800,000. That is kind of what I said.
Chairman,
What's that?
how many voting members do we have tonight?
6.
6?
Yes.
There are 7 people speaking. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's allowed to
She is.
No.
She's allowed to speak.
No.
Yeah, no, she is.
Yeah.
That's her speaking.
She cannot vote. She
She just can't make a motion.
She can't vote.
Yeah.
She can contribute.
She can contribute.
Oh, wait. So you could have 8%?
We've had alternates in the past to discuss things, but couldn't make motions when we had full members here.
Oh, yeah, she has every, according to the updated bylaws for our committee.
Right, I was gonna say, didn't we actually note that in the bylaws?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's in the
so
bylaws.
it is in the bylaws. Everybody's got a copy.
Everybody has the opportunity to contribute at the meetings, whether they are a voting member for that night or not. It's written specifically in that bylaws.
I just clarified that at the beginning of the meeting before I spoke.
So what I'm seeing at this point is that Adrian and I feel 600,000 cut would be appropriate. Tom and Ted, you're at 7. Gary and Don, you're at 8.
750.
And I'm at 0.
In that area.
I'm speaking.
Yep, okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, I think we all have to give up something. I think, and I agree. I think that I would like to see a lower budget, right, for my own sake. But again, I just don't want to see our town suffer either. I think that we need to keep moving forward. And I think education is correct in the fact that everything we've seen is like a 1% increase. It's always been 1%, 1%, and like you said, the one year that it was 3%, it was because of pension, and that's 100% accurate?
It was, so with our increase last year was 1.06%, and that was related to pension. Prior to my arriving, there was an increase of about 300, actually, I have the exact.
Okay.
I can give you the exact number.
That'd be great. It was in your presentation.
Yeah, that's fine. Give me 30 seconds.
I'm gonna put a timer on it.
So if we look at last year, that was 1.06%. A portion of that was related to the pension. Previously, it was 0.13, 0.08. The budget was reduced in 2020, so negative 1.8. 2019, it was 3.21. That's the largest the increase has been. However, I believe that 3.21 has an asterisk to it in that that money was actually returned to the town. So there was, and we can speak to that if we wanted to. The year prior to that, the budget was reduced by 0.95%. Previously, 1.70. Before that, 0.74. We have to go back to 2015 to find 2.51. Meanwhile, salaries are increasing at an average of 2.5%.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're speaking, right? I mean, so I get it, but we're not investing in our town. We're not investing in our kids. And I have 5 of them, right? Who are in school, are involved in sports, here in the town. And I think that if we wanted to go forward, I think that we do need to, tighten up our belts a little bit. We're not giving our school what our school needs, I believe, to educate our children, to be there for us. And I understand that it's not just the school, it has to do with the parents as well. But don't we want to have a school that people can be like, yeah, man, I'm proud to go to the school, like it helped my child out, special ed, whatever the case is. And the fact that without them knowing, Barrows raised it $26,000 for next year on Friday?
They raised their tuition 10%. We have 46 students at Barrows. So we actually have already built into our budget a reduction of over $25,000 because that tuition now has to be accounted for.
Yeah, so again, all I'm saying is that in looking at that, I believe that we do need to butter it up. So that's why I think that if they're able to do 3, I think that we could easily match that and say, hey, can you find another 3 somewhere between all 3 of you and leave it at 600? And it might not be what we all want, but we can let the public speak if it goes to a vote.
I think right now we have to consider the people of the town.
Yeah.
That's so much what we need. We need 5 more cops too. Willimantic is short 7. And pretty soon they're going to be coming to Plainfield saying, we'll give you 10,000 more, bring them up there. And then we're going to be short here. So we can't cut there either. And you can do the same thing with the town.
Yeah.
We need lifeguards. So I'm saying, let's talk about what we have to do for the people of the town,
Yeah.
the taxpayer.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, so you're at 6 or at 7, I'm at 6. I think we're close. I'm not saying I wasn't sure. I'm not saying that. I think what we're looking at, to be honest, is maybe we can meet at the middle, 650.
Yeah, we're about 650, that's what I was just gonna think, 'cause that was why I said one of my original comments was
What's
650.
more important for the town than the police department and the schools? I mean, nobody wants to take
The
it.
taxpayer is for our job is to
No, I
satisfy the
understand what
taxpayer.
our job is, Ted, but we didn't go out and do the reevaluations, and that's why the taxes are
I'm
going
going
up.
up 15% for my taxes.
Wait,
You think
we're
I
all
like
up.
this, but I know it's gotta be done.
It's a fact that, Linda, what I believe is what will the town take?
I
Right?
understand.
What will they accept? And we can think one way, but there has to be a cut. It's just the way they are. I mean, you and I are on the same page.
I
think
just
that they-
hear a lot of, I'm looking at my personal taxes, and I'm telling you, my personal taxes went up 50%. And, but I'm not looking at the mill rate so that my taxes stay the same, and I hear some of that going up.
Oh, God. No, I mean, again, I just know that if we say, hey, we're gonna pass it as is, we're gonna be sitting at this table again. I think some people would like to see it, at a 1.2 million cut. I don't think that's fair for the town. I think that we should say, hey, listen, we think this is what's fair, 650, let's say, and let the town decide. I mean, at least that's 4 of us that are around that number.
I don't get a vote, so.
No, but you get a say, and that's
I do.
important.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody's asking for, well, the school didn't know they could come down, and the police are willing to make a sacrifice. I mean, to me, that
The
300,000
thing is, with
is
the
enormous.
with the taxpayers out there, what the thing is with the taxpayers out there, what can they?
I mean, and I think that if something were to happen to HVAC, absolutely, please come to please come to the board, absolutely, you know what I'm saying? And if we can save money, let's do it, but if they didn't come to us because the HVAC goes off or whatever happens, you know, then we have to take a look at that. So.
Any other thoughts, comments?
So Adrian, you would possibly consider 650?
I would consider 650.
Okay, I would consider 650. I said it in my original statement that I was looking between somewhere at 650 to 750. Dean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think 650 is fair. Ted? Gary?
I'm still looking towards 750.
I'm looking all over I was thinking 800, so 750, 800, I can deal with 800.
If we were to decide on 650, would we divide that proportionally based on the current budget allotment, which would be close to 75% for Board of Ed and 25% for the town?
Yes.
Which essentially, Kelly, please correct me on my math if I'm wrong, if we were to go to 650 reduction with a 75-25 split, it would be 487,500 from the Board of Ed and 162,500 from the town. Is that correct?
I got 162.5 for the town, 47.5 for the Board of Ed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which would bring the mill rate to 20.85?
20.88.
20.8? Okay, I'm sorry, it's right
Yep.
there, thank you.
Oh, it's in there, yes.
20.88.
As was pointed out to me last night, even if we come up with a number here and we put it to a vote, it still may not pass. But I think that we've had enough open dialogue, especially tonight, to make this something that is presentable to the town. And again, they have the final say, and if whatever happens, if this happens to not pass, then we have to reconvene and come up with another plan. Yes, Christie?
I just have a question on that 487 that you'd be potentially cutting the schools. I understand budgets are separate. What happens when the Board of Ed budget fails with a no because parents are upset because we cut too much?
Well, then we would have to address that. If that
Where's
is,
the
if that is,
opportunity for that? Will there be another public forum, public meeting?
I would
Yes.
think that, yes, then again, yes, there is another public meeting.
It would be up to them to come out and tell us, I voted no because.
With a cut of 47.5, what would that leave your increase at? Where's the number whiz?
Say 487,000, 487,500.
Yep.
You ready for a motion?
130,000.
He's computing.
But what is the
Yeah, well, let's let
percentage? 2%,
Mr. Richards
2.5?
finish his computation, too.
How much was it?
162, 162,500 town, 487,500 school. Still working the numbers?
The increase would be 2.28%. The increase in the Board of Education would be 2.28%.
Thank you for that. I mean, my response to them would be that it would be an extra 1% increase, more than last year, the year before, and the year before that. So maybe those 3 years combined plus an extra percent, it would be my response. So, you know, yeah.
I just know we can live with the 300, maybe squeak out 350, but an extra 125,000 on 130,000 on top of that.
I mean, that would be up to the board to see, I mean, you know, how it's split up, absolutely. So, I mean, is there any thought on that?
That will be discussed tomorrow night at the Board of Ed meeting.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm talking with our board here now. Is that what we're down to 47.5 for the Board of Ed, 162.5 for the town, or is there any talk on leveling that off a little bit more, or leave it as is?
I would look at like 400 and 250.
Okay.
Just my opinion, just my opinion.
What numbers?
400 Board of Ed, 250 town. Just an idea.
Your thoughts, Ted?
Trying to figure out how much that comes up to.
So you're looking at,
750?
oh, no, it's still 650,000.
Just 650 total.
But, so we were saying 487,500 come from Board of Ed, 162,500 come from the town. To maybe help out a little bit with that would be 400,000 from Board of Ed, 250,000 from the town.
I'd like to see what we vote on first.
What I'm saying, so we can vote it all together, that's what I'm saying. Because I believe that with what we have, 650 should pass.
Yeah, I'm for 650 person.
Yeah.
The numbers that we've been talking about there, just the proportion of that, obviously. We need to
Yes. Could I just make a motion?
Absolutely.
I would like to make a motion that we said we cut the proposed budget by $650,000 with $400,000 coming from the Board of Ed and $250,000 coming from the town.
And it would establish the mill rate at,
And it would establish a mill rate at 20.88.
okay. So we have a motion on the table to reduce the overall budget by $650,000, $400,000 coming from the Board of Ed, $250,000 from the town side, resulting in a mill rate of 20.88. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion made by Adrian, we have it seconded by Tom. I will repeat the motion, that the budget would be reduced by $650,000, $400,000 coming from the Board of Ed, $250,000 coming from the town, resulting in a mill rate of 20.88. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All right. We have all, okay, 5 in favor, opposed? 1 opposed? That motion carries. Again, a reminder is that this now goes to a town vote, which would be held on May 15th. With that being said, I will now open the floor for citizens' participation. If there's anybody that would like to approach the board with a question comment, please feel free to do so. Again, as our practice, please state whether or not you're a resident and give us your full name.
I'll go. I'm not like, Scott Collins, 35 Sterling Road, Lucid. So Kelly, the favorite question, when I was a Board of Finance member, how's the fund balance?
It's healthy, 9.4 unrestricted million.
So just one of the suggestions I would make somewhere down the road for cuts, because it could not come from the budget, it would actually go down to the fund balance, would be, we always used to buy the 2 police cars from the fund balance. Fix the HVAC unit with the fund balance. Do things like that to help, and if there's 100,000 or something you can give to the Board of Ed from the fund balance for some type of investment they have, then do that. That's what we used to do in the past. I'm not quite sure how it ended up in the budget, but if you look down there in the fund balance piece, there's 2 police cars. So why not continue to pay for them out of the fund balance versus trying to put them up against the budget? That would be one of my suggestions. For the superintendent, just real quick, why do you have the enrollment going up? Because for 3 straight years, the enrollment's gone down. I don't know the years before, and I'm pretty sure it went down. So in 2020, you were 2162, then you went down to 1995, then you went to 1978, and this year at 1939, and you're projecting 1960. So where do you see 21 more kids coming?
So I can answer that. So the reason the numbers are low this year, largely looking at the pre-K numbers, we weren't able to hire enough teachers in our pre-K program at the start of the year. And for that reason, we only had really 2 classrooms open. We now have 4 classrooms open. That was based on staff. When families are told of pre-K students that there's not a classroom open for you, they find other childcare. So next year we're actually predicting, so I can give you 2 other numbers for that. That number on that list there I think has 115 freshmen at Plainfield High School. We have about 143 that have selected classes for next year, coming from our 8th grade and from Sterling. Now we may still lose some of those to Ellis and other places that we don't know, but we predict that number to be higher. And then the grant that we just spoke to doesn't actually include the fact that our pre-K program, the grant that we just wrote, we're moving from our readiness program having 10 full-day spots and approximately 20 half-day spots to 80 full-day spots. That's where the money is coming from. And we presented that grant at our last board meeting publicly, and that's in the documents on the website. So those numbers are actually going to be higher than the numbers that I presented in that piece. That's the packet that I presented publicly when I presented to the Board of Finance, and I kept that going forward. But that's where those numbers are coming from, it's primarily pre-K.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, the time is now 7:29, and if there's no one else that wishes to make comment, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Adrian, seconded by Gary. We are adjourned. Well, point of order. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.